Welcome everyone to another exciting video hosted by Miss Disney. I am your lovely host, Miss Disney. If you hear background noises, that is just the lovely Mr. Disney playing his Super Mario game, so we're going to ignore him because he's not important. Update, I know you guys have been seeing me doing first chapter series of books. Great, thank you for those of you that are watching and listening in on my voice as I read to you the first chapters. Update on myself is I am doing fine. The emotions are pretty much waving itself down, and we're getting to the point where Mr. Disney and myself are finally getting our little bundle of joys bedroom ready. So it was a pretty productive day, and we also had to take down our Christmas decorations. For those of you that are wondering, I am actually fine. For some reason, my wrist decided to sting a lot, so nothing to worry about. Anyway, what I want to talk to you about is something that's kind of been on my mind for like a couple weeks now, and I really want to finally bring it out, and it's something that's related to one of my classes that I had to take in college back in the spring. As you know, when you get into college, one of your classes is you have to take an English class. And I chose, to my surprise, the Scary Tales or the Horror Tales English class, where I get 6 books or 6 stories, have to analyze them, talk about what the meaning behind of it is, and how do you know that these are considered ghost stories? Well, one of them, to my absolute favorite enjoyment, was A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And yes, I finally just realized that The Christmas Carol is really considered a ghost story more than a Christmas story. Mainly because, let's face it, you are dealing with ghosts. You're dealing with Jacob Marley and the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and the present yet to come. So it was actually great. That being said, when I had to spend a whole week reading A Christmas Carol. Very quick week for me. I absolutely enjoyed it. I am very familiar with the story because I grew up around A Christmas Carol. On more than just reading the book, I also was introduced to Mickey's Christmas Carol and The Muppets Christmas Carol. And shocker, part of my the way that I usually study when it comes to certain books or certain essays that are required to write, I always find different resources that best relate to what I'm doing. And because it was A Christmas Carol, I was like, wait a minute. I know 2 movies that I actually have that I can use as my resources to help me better understand the story, or at least have a good general visualization. And to be honest, I was also kind of curious to see how well the movies actually go with the story. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I had to make a very difficult decision. I had to choose between Mickey's Christmas Carol or The Muppets Christmas Carol as my personal favorite. Muppets Christmas Carol wins. Why? Well, I grew up with Mickey's Christmas Carol. Nothing wrong with it. I love it with all my heart. It is actually my first version of the Christmas Carol that I remember watching. But now that I'm an adult, and I had to do research on this, or at least in the story behind the Disney version, it came to my attention that it was nowhere near the actual story. I mean, yes, it does have its ghosts. Yes, it features Ebenezer Scrooge as this greedy, this greedy guy that always takes money. He never really cares about anyone else but himself. He was just not a very nice man at all. And yes, it did feature Bob Cratchit. But after reading the story and watching Mickey's Christmas Carol, that was the only thing they have in common, was just that they got the characters, they got the personalities, but they never really got in depth with what the story is about. Whereas the Muppets Christmas Carol, which actually features the great Michael Caine, oh my goodness, he's one of my favorite British actors of all time, and it's actually really good because Michael Caine, when he does a job, he does it to the core. He played Ebenezer Scrooge beautifully. Growing up, you gotta understand, this is a 1992 movie. Wait. Yep, 1992 movie, and my first time ever watching it, I want to say I was maybe 5, maybe 6. I know I was in elementary school, and we were not allowed to watch it by ourselves, and with good reason. Oh my goodness. If you've seen this, if you remember the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, you would have nightmares too, my friend. And let me tell you something. Even as an adult, I thought it was a bright idea to actually watch the movie in the dark. How brilliant am I to actually watch a ghost movie in the dark? How brilliant am I? No, I was not. Oh my goodness, I was not. Oh, that was the worst mistake I ever made, because it still gives me nightmares to this day. But I can honestly tell you, the Muppets Christmas Carol is my favorite because not only was the time longer, it's an 89-minute movie, but it actually got more into the story. Like, I felt like I was actually reading the book, or at least watching the book, as I was reading it, because the words were there. The only thing that's changed is that they did add their cute Muppet charm, which was phenomenal. I mean, you got Rizzo the Rat, you got Gonzo as Charles Dickens, who is the narrator of the story. So it was really nice to actually have a narrator in the story, and he's participating in the story. Now, again, I love this movie because it not only features, it's a Disney, it's a Muppet movie, but it literally is, it was word from word. I actually felt more inclined of using this movie as my resource than Mickey's Christmas Carol. Granted, I think I would still have this movie, and I would still watch it just for the fun of it, because it's nice to actually see your favorite Disney characters playing these classic characters. Like, you got Jiminy Cricket as the Ghost of Christmas Past. You got the Giant from Jack and the Beanstalk, or Mickey and the Beanstalk, I should say, as the Ghost of Christmas Present. And you got Pete, who plays the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. I know I'm spoiling it, but I think at this rate everybody has probably seen it. So, but I'm not going to tell you who everybody else plays. But I think it's suffice to say that it's a cute story. It's a cute movie to watch when you're just like not doing anything school related. You just want to be in the mood to watch A Christmas Carol. And I think Mickey's Christmas Carol is more Christmassy than Muppets Christmas Carol, because let's face it, you're dealing with Ebenezer Scrooge, who is encountered by the ghost of Jacob Marley, and the way they portrayed Jacob Marley in this, he actually comes up and the chains scare the living daylights out of you. Oh my, I can honestly tell you that watching this movie in the dark was the worst mistake I have ever made, because I was literally at the edge of my seat, and granted, this was during the time of quarantine, so of course I was actually watching this by myself while Mr. Disney was out at his job, and I was like watching this at night. I was literally at the edge of my seat, and unfortunately I jumped the minute that Mr. Disney came home. It literally scared me. That's how much of a bad idea that was, but the fact is that they actually have the theme that Charles Dickens is trying to portray in his story. And that's what I love about the Muppets, is that all the classical, growing up, I've watched the classical fairy tales version, the classical novel version, just anything that they recreated but add their own Muppet style in there. Despite the changes of adding the Muppet style, they did a beautiful job by staying with not only the story, the characters and their personalities and their development, but also the theme of it. Like, it really got into the character development, and it really got into the plot of the story. They really did their research. Jim Henson, I believe this was his last, I want to say, but I'm not 100% sure, that this was Jim Henson's last movie before his untimely passing. And you can't go by my word, because I would, for one thing, I was pretty much a baby when that movie came out. So, and of course they never put it into DVD or VHS until like probably early 90s, when I don't even remember a whole lot of my childhood before 5, which is why I say I think my first memory of it was when I was 5. But anyway, now as an adult, and I had to read A Christmas Carol as part of my homework assignment, and actually having to do the full-on research of it, I finally realized what I love most about A Muppet's Christmas Carol is the fact they stuck with the theme, they stuck with the energy, they stuck with everything that actually came from the book itself. So, quite honestly, guys, if you are ever in the mood to read A Christmas Carol, whether it's for college, whether it's for fun, or whether it's a family tradition, if you really want to get a good visualization of the story, I highly recommend The Muppets Christmas Carol, just because of those reasons, because of the character development, the plot lines, the themes, the energy, just the entire energy made it so that you were either on your feet, you were happy, you were feeling what the characters were feeling, you were experiencing what the characters were experiencing, like Ebenezer Scrooge finally realizing that he was the outcast from Bob Cratchit's family, and as well as his own. So that was actually really something, and that was another thing that the Muppets Christmas Carol did better than the Mickey's Christmas Carol. Yes, they did introduce Ebenezer Scrooge's nephew in Mickey's Christmas Carol, but they never actually showed what they were doing during the Christmas present time, unlike they did in the book, as well as in the Muppets Christmas Carol. So that was another plus side of this. So it was, honestly, I think after years and years of watching and having to be terrified of the Muppets Christmas Carol, but love Mickey's Christmas Carol growing up, to, as an adult, not so much liking Mickey's Christmas Carol, but still enjoy it, but really loving the Muppets Christmas Carol, you really get to visually see a huge difference between movies. Other than the times, you actually get to experience how these movies are different and what makes them either enjoyable or what makes them not. And I think that's all the time that we have here for today. Thank you for watching this little out of the ordinary video. If you really want to watch Muppets Christmas Carol or Mickey's Christmas Carol, go right ahead. No one's stopping you. For crying out loud, they're both really enjoyed videos. I just wanted to point this out because, like I said, it's been on my mind for a couple weeks, and I still have my good story that I tend to read from time to time, and it's something that me and my dad actually enjoy doing together, is reading a bunch of old classics together. So until next time, please be safe. For all essential workers who are working their butts off, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And for all the nurses, doctors, and health providers, as well as my cousin who is actually a nurse up in Connecticut, I hope that you are staying safe and that you are working hard. And I know that this is tough times, but we will get through this strong. So thank you and have a great day.